Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CASA podcast. Welcome back. This CASA podcast is a talk show hosted by the Chinese American Students Association at the University of Pittsburgh, where I invite Asian Americans of all different kinds of backgrounds to come and just talk about their upbringing, their current lives, and just to have a fun chat about life, I guess. And I'm your host, Edward Lin, and tonight we have two very special guests because here with me are Mike and Sheldon from Canto, Mando.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, guys.
So, unfortunately, one of their trio, Edward, who I am very lucky to share a name with, isn't actually here with us for travel reasons. But I'm actually really excited to hear what you guys have to say. So, of course, there's the obligatory intro session. And this is where I just kind of ask you guys some, weird questions so we can get a special insight or fun fact about you. So, for tonight's question, if you could jump into a machine that makes you go back or forward in age, so like you could relive your teens, or you could jump ahead into like your 30s or 40s. I don't know why you would want to jump there, but where would you go and why?
Wait, so is it like jump back in time with my current knowledge, or like relive memory? Like I change.
Like you have your current knowledge, yeah.
Oh, so like I can go back to high school, but like be as smart as, or like like have the wisdom.
Is there a time limit on like how long you live this like this memory?
So like if you go back in time, you just like start from there, or like if you go forward in time, you like start from
history.
Oh, okay.
Oh hell yeah! Like
I will go back in time.
I'll go back in time.
You would? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually pretty solid.
Like, even if like you like know like what kind of stocks, like you can invest in Amazon or something.
Oh my god.
You know what I'm saying? You can invest in like Apple or something like that.
Actually that makes a lot of sense. Okay. So if you could jump back or forth in time, where would you guys said that you guys would go back and then like invest in stocks or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like there's like a wealth of opportunities that you know now that you like missed in the past. Even like, for example, I'd be like, yo, I'll go back and buy Bitcoin or something like that, right?
Yeah, totally. But
I'll go back and do something.
I guess so, yeah. I feel like even if I did go back though, I might not even have like the resources to do that. You know what I mean?
But you will know, you have the knowledge though, right?
Yeah, you have the
That's
knowledge.
the thing.
Oh,
and then you can like convince your dad to like steal his money. Trust me, man. Bitcoin's gonna be worth a lot of money, Dad.
Yeah.
Or even like, like all these different things that you know now that you didn't know back then, that you missed the opportunity for.
Yeah, I will start at the very beginning. I'd be speaking perfect English right outside my mother's womb.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah, yo, like I'll give you like a TV sensation. Like,
yeah,
for real.
Perfect English, right?
kid.
Yeah. 0-year-old kid has strong grasp of calculus.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think for myself though, I'm like really looking forward to an age where I can just like chill. You know what I mean? Just like I don't know, maybe I would like fast forward to retirement and just like have
But then you cut your
whatever.
life so short.
I guess so, yeah. That's true. That's true. Yeah.
And like you don't ever really like truly chill. Like I mean, like everyone's always waiting for that next stage. Like you're in school, you're like, oh, here can't wait to get to high school. So where can't wait to I didn't say the same thing. Like you're gonna be always waiting for something else.
Yeah, that's always true. Actually, yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that. So, thanks for answering that question. I guess we can move into some more expositional stuff. So, do you guys want to talk about how you guys got started with Canto Mando?
Yeah, sure. So what happened was I was learning Mandarin at the time of like two years ago or so. I was learning Mandarin, and like basically it was like a lot easier for me to learn because I was like, oh, I speak Cantonese already, and there was no like resources. Like there's like white people resources, which is way too easy, like ni hao and stuff. It's too easy. And there's like hardcore like Cantonese resources, which like I don't understand, right? I was like, oh, I'll make like a learn Chinese for people who speak really shitty Chinese video, right? And so we did that. And then it went okay, and then eventually Mike came on and he joined in.
Let me just add something to that. I just remember that time that he came over and he was like, yo, let's start a YouTube channel about learning like Mandarin from Cantonese. And I'm like, I'm already Mandarin, right? Yeah. And he's like, do you want to just and I'm like, I gave him like a half but that was like half committed yes. And then he's like, okay, well then if we do that, let's make an intro for our channel right now.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't commit that hard to the
Yeah.
whole thing.
But in hindsight, like the reason why I was like really passionate at the time was because like I always grew up kind of like not being so proud of like my culture and like all that like Asian heritage and stuff. And it was like when I decided to like learn and focus on learning Chinese and getting better at it, and like Cantonese and Mandarin. That's when I started getting like more proud of my heritage and more like embracing it more. And I was like, oh, if other people like learn this easy to learn language, like maybe they'll feel the same way. And that was kind of like the thought behind it. And then over time, we realized like we can't really teach a language we suck at, so we gave up.
You should have seen the videos at the beginning.
Yeah,
it was like PowerPoint slides.
Yeah, the PowerPoint slides. So about a year later, I was working my job and I felt really like unfulfilled.
Yeah.
Oh, like let's try making video again, right? But this time let's make like a funny video. And I did that and ended up doing pretty good again. And then like Mike was like, hey, let's do this again. I'm like, yeah, let's do it again.
Yeah.
And then like, the other Edward came on. He's like, yo, can I join too? And then
so he actually came to you guys.
Yeah, I can do it. Well, he'll say otherwise, but he came to us.
Yeah, he came to us.
Well, I mean, he's not here to defend himself, so I guess we'll just have to take that at that. So what, originally speaking, what gave you guys the idea of doing Cantonese and Mandarin? Like, do you guys have a background in both, like a foot in both?
Want me to talk?
It was, I mean, I think the name Canto Mando was derived from Sheldon's like teaching Cantonese. Yeah, teaching Mandarin from Cantonese.
Yeah, from Cantonese.
Oh, okay, I see.
And it was a very catchy name, so we stuck with that, and it fit. Even though we changed our content a little bit, it really fit who we are because we have Canto and Mando here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Growing up here, like everyone always like, yo, I'm Canto, yo, I'm Mando. Like everyone that's like identify themselves, and we realized it's very like North American or at least Canadian thing. Like that's kind of like another reason behind the name too. Because I was thinking like, I was like, what should the name be? And I was like, oh, like I'm Canto, you're Mando. Let's do Canto Mando.
That's actually really cool. Yeah, I think it's. Oh, I'm sorry. I actually think it's kind of rare to see that. Like collaboration between the two, because a lot of the times that language barrier really is something that keeps us from communicating with each other. Just like typically speaking. Yeah. So, talking about then your backgrounds, do you guys want to like just give an intro to how you were raised and like what are some major moments in life where you look back and you're just like, wow, butterfly effect,
Oh shit.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean like?
So just like for example, for me, like one of the biggest events in my life was like I would say I just remember really clearly in elementary school. There was this, or maybe it was like middle school, but there was this one time where like I was made fun of a lot for the clothes that I wore, because like my parents would like buy me clothes from Walmart, and like after that I started taking my fashion like super seriously, and like it started with just like buying button downs and all that, and now it's like turned into another thing completely. So like for you guys, what was something like that? Oh, thanks.
Okay, yeah, Mike, you want to go first?
You want to go first?
Mike, I asked you to go first because I have to cough.
For me, turning point. I think one of the biggest turning points was going to China for the first time. I think that when I was in grade 7. Yeah, when I was in grade 7, I visited China, and prior to that, I always had it was always in my head that like I wasn't Chinese. Like I was Chinese from the outside, but inside I didn't feel Chinese. Right? Like I felt very black inside. Yeah, you were in the presentation and whatnot, but I identify so hard with the hip hop culture where it was basketball, and then I really looked down at Asian people in general, right? Because I was like, they're not as nerds all the time. Speaking Chinese isn't cool. Like, it's kind of lame. I was ashamed to speak it in public. And a big turning point for me was definitely going back to China. And I felt like I was a little bit superior. I felt like I was better than everyone, even though we're all the same, right? And then I noticed that like I was missing out on a whole different culture, like a whole different side, where like it felt I was the Thor thumb when I was in China. You know what I mean? Being able to not speak a Chinese that well, and being able to only speak English, not only speak English, but I just didn't use Chinese as often as I like do at home.
Mm-hmm.
And just a huge turning point just to see, like, immerse myself in the culture a little more, because I was really forced to do that, right? I was in a whole different country, and I haven't gone back. I've gone first time in grade 7 since I moved to Canada, which is when I was grade 1.
Mm-hmm.
And from there on, it was a very subtle transition period, but from there on, I really started to embrace my culture a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Yourself? Yeah, so I think like if I was to say a transition point from like when obviously it's gonna be like I think it's Asian American related. So my big transition point into like when I first started hating myself as an Asian American is when we went to this like party trip, and at the time we were like we were in high school and we were like party and everything like that.
Yeah.
So, we went on this party trip. It's like a student party trip. It's called S Trip.
Yeah.
Okay.
To Montreal, Canada, and basically it's like a huge it's like a bunch of people from Ontario like together in one place. And so we grew up in a very Asian part of Ontario,
Mm-hmm.
and then a bunch of like different Caucasian people, like different people, different ethnicities here in one Caucasian partying together. And so I remember, I was like dancing with this girl.
Okay.
She was pretty into it, and then what happened was her friend, Eda told me this afterwards, but her friend actually came by from behind and then did this like Asian like that. She was like Asian like this, and then afterwards like that girl left, right? And so that really had an impact on how I viewed myself, because I never really thought like being Asian was uncool, but in this case, it was like that girl was, she was dancing with me, so at first she was into me. But then afterwards, because her friend said Asian, not even her, like her friend said it, and then she was like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna dip now because it's not cool to be seen with an Asian person." And so that's my mentality and the way I viewed like myself and all my culture, like it changed entirely. That's when I was like, okay, like I don't want to do this. Like I don't want to be Asian. Like I'd rather be any other race but Asian. And so that was a really, really big turning point for me. So at that point on, like I just like hated everything. Like I was like, I don't want to associate myself with like, anyone who came from China, like any international students. I don't want to associate myself with like my culture, my language, just trying to speak like Canadian, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Quote unquote Canadian. And then the second turning point came when and so after that, like I went to university and I was like, I want to be part of the white squad. I don't want to be part of the Asian squad at all. I always tell Mike, I was like, yo, like, let's stop going to these Asian parties. I want to go to like the other parties.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to that like I really didn't belong in because I was there and I didn't really fit in. And then everything changed when I was like, you know what, like I want to learn Mandarin because it's a good business language. I was like, oh, it's good for my career.
Yeah.
And then as I was learning it, to learn a language, you have to like really immerse yourself in the culture, right?
Right.
Often like, like Cantonese culture and everything like that, and often like music, movies, everything, just to learn the language. And doing that, I started being like, oh, this is I really appreciate this culture.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a bunch of to help me learn the language. I like had like different like language exchange buddies in China where I would just call them and be like, hey, like let's practice language and stuff on WeChat. And doing that, I realized like people and everything like that. These are good people. And then that was when I changed from hating it to like actually loving and really appreciating it. And then eventually came Canto Mando.
Yeah, I actually see that happening a lot too. A lot of Asian American youth grow up, not really appreciating this culture that they come from, even though it's something that, on surface level you see that and you're like, why wouldn't you be proud of that? And I mean, like for myself, I personally can't really say that there was a point in time where like I just didn't want to be Asian anymore, but I could really see that, it is tough for Asian American youth. There is a lot of stigma, especially when you're in like middle school and high school, and like high school students and middle school students, like they don't know anything about what it really means to respect somebody who's different from you, and like that's where you can get a lot of that kind of stuff happening. So so I can see that it took an actual connection to back to that culture. It took that to like get you guys to appreciate your own culture again. How do you what would you say to people who maybe don't have that kind of access, who, can't go back to China or aren't really interested in learning Chinese or stuff like that? What steps can they take, or what would you recommend to them?
So you're asking how can someone who doesn't have access to all these resources get in touch with their culture?
Yeah, yeah.
I think one of the first things is a realization. Is like, are you coming from the perspective that they are already ashamed of their culture, or they just lack awareness
Well,
to that?
And to expand, I mean, let's say they like there's this idea that like you have to be in touch with the culture. You don't have to be in touch with the culture.
mhm,
If you're perfectly happy and you are genuinely happy and you're comfortable with yourself,
mhm.
then I mean, why change it just because
Right.
I feel like I have to. Like if you feel like you have to be in touch with the culture, you will never truly appreciate it because then you're forced to do it, right?
Yeah.
So is it coming from the mindset of like someone who's ashamed of it but like wants to appreciate it more, or is it coming from the mindset of like someone who is just like whatever, but then you want to force them to appreciate their culture? Like, what's your question
Well,
targeting?
I'm kind of coming across from the standpoint of like kids who want to get back in touch with that, or maybe kids who are, ashamed of their culture. What steps can, we do to promote the idea of not being ashamed of yourself just because of the
So
way
first,
that.
so first of all, I think that they should go watch Canto Mando. But uh, that's a good that's a good question. What would you say?
I mean, okay, so if we really want to get people to be more proud of their like culture, and so are you referring to like say like if I'm an Asian person, like my true like Chinese culture back in over there, or like just being proud of it as being an Asian
No,
person?
just like being an Asian person yourself, because I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's. Oh, sorry.
No,
You
no,
were
no,
talking.
you're okay. Keep going with that thing.
Okay, I mean, I think that starts with large part like this like whole like big Asian American movement that's going on right now. Like that is extremely like fundamental to how people view themselves because like growing up when you like are constantly looking at these like Caucasian idols and these like idols that aren't necessarily look like you or don't have the same experience as you, then you think, oh, okay, Asian people can achieve these things. Asian people, I don't have any Asian idols. I don't have any people who are Asian that I look up to. So it's like, why would I appreciate being Asian when like none of the people who look like me are out there in the media? Like so much of our standards, like, what I think is for example, an attractive girl, or what I think is an attractive, or girl thinks is an attractive guy, it's all from the media, right? Like in reality, everyone's standards are different, but it's because the media perpetuates this certain look of like, like 7 feet tall male with 7 foot salary, whatever, stupid shit like that. Like and like that, like, and that's what it is, right? And so by us like like continuing to push for media representation, then standards will change. People will see that, this is cool, because what's cool is really subjective. It's really arbitrary. It's not no real definition of cool, right? But by the media, by having more by having the way we're presented in the media change, and like everyone's perception will change, and through that people will become more time.
I think I want to add that I know you said that they might not have the resources, but taking a trip to China or where you're from to your roots, I think that is extremely impactful. As much as you can say that, I want to learn Chinese here, I want to immerse myself in the culture in the West, you're kind of held back, right? The most you could do is through a screen. So there's still that barrier of not fully immersing yourself within the culture. But if you're back home or you're like going to China or not, like you're literally there. There's no you could not immerse yourself, right? Everything you do from like eating food to just having normal conversations, it requires you to know the language, but more so it requires you to have an appreciation or have a deeper understanding of the culture itself, right? So if you can save the money, and if you can, I think that everybody should go once at least to where they're from. If you're Asian or if you're like Chinese, you go back to China. If you're Korea, you should go back to Korea. Just once to see how life is there, because the West portrays the East in a certain light, just as how the East portrays the West in a certain light, right?
Oh yeah,
and it's just how and it's structured. So to see the true picture, you really have to see it with your own eyes, right? So I think that's one of the things. prior to going back to China, I always had a perception of fobs, people who came to China are all like, yo, I don't know English really well. They're super shy. But when you go back, you realize that fobs are not just fobs. They're actually people. You know, like they have personalities. Everybody's different. They're shy. There's outgoing, and there's a whole spectrum of people that are Chinese, not just categorized as fresh off the boat, right?
Yeah,
So your
yeah.
perspective changes dramatically if you can immerse yourself by going back. So I think that's something that I think that everyone should do.
Yeah, and you touched on that thing about, talking about FOBs versus, like Asian American or American born.
Right.
I mean, like, for myself personally, I kind of seen that. I mean, it's been really weird, just seeing that, how there's a divide already between, people who are born in America and people who are born in China, even though, like, we're already such a small minority, It just doesn't really,
Exactly.
yeah, it just doesn't really make sense to me. And, touching on
We
that,
don't.
yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, I'm saying that we don't need a internal ethnic like kind of clash like that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
We're essentially one. Well, yeah, we're one ethnicity. But within this ethnicity, sorry, we have to. I don't know why we have to kind of like, I'm better than you, you're better than me, I'm better than you.
Interesting because there's this battle. Like for instance, like our videos got posted on like Billy, which is like Chinese YouTube, and it's funny when it got posted there. There was a lot of discrimination against us, which is interesting. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, like these guys aren't Chinese. These guys are foreigners. These guys like there was like kind of like there was obviously a lot of people that enjoyed us, but a lot of people that were like, oh, like so they're so like there's so much like they're so ashamed of to see us, for instance. There's so much like they thought we were like betraying the country, whatever, by speaking English, something like that.
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting to see. But like growing up, I think like I definitely held a lot of. By the way, I hate that word fob. It's very like has a lot of negative connotation with it now. But like I had a lot of like negative thoughts towards like people who were international students growing up because that was because I was ashamed of my own culture, And so I think by just being open-minded and not having these like different ideas about someone, stereotypes about someone before you meet them, then that's a really good way to learn that these people are also just cool people too.
Yeah.
And then through that you also be like, oh, okay, like my culture is pretty cool, just a added bonus.
Yeah, I was actually talking to somebody, and I feel like they said something that was really relevant to this too. What they said was that the root of racism, the root of discrimination is actually just seeing a different group of people and assuming that they don't share the same diversity that you see in your own group of people. And I heard that and I was like, wow, that's like wow, so deep,
Yeah.
But on the other hand, like I can see myself thinking in that way too. Like
Right.
I'm not exempt from, thinking about, I don't know, like white people in that kind of manner, like, and it really I don't know, it like struck me because it was an interesting realization to have, you know.
Hmm.
So, oh yeah, go ahead.
Go on.
Oh no, I was done with that thought.
I didn't really have a thought.
Yeah, me too.
I don't really have a
We
thought.
just thought that we need to speak because it was like kind of thing. So
Yeah, no, I feel you on that. So, what inspired you guys to focus your channel on, the Chinese or Asian American, growing up scene? Because there's a lot of, I guess like funny topics out there. What really like put you into that mode of thinking for your channel?
Well, so it all started off with that like very first video that got everything going, which was
sorry, it was my mom.
Okay. It all started off with that very first video that got everything going, which was like every Asian American in the universe, right? Which was like how like we all put like fluent in Chinese on our resume, but you had to be that was inspired by two events. One of them was when Mike applied for a job in Shanghai, and then he actually like Skyped me during his interview so I could see it and like, but the whole time like the girl was like, oh, like Chinese kind of sucks, and she was like, yeah, you should apply like
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, it's like actually hella jokes because like I have it on my resume too. I still have it on my resume, by the way. Um, uh, like that inspired that, and then we saw like how well that did, and it was and what was really inspiring was the fact that so many people were like, oh my god, this is so me, you know? Like when I made that video, like it wasn't like under the context of like, oh my god, like everyone's gonna relate to this. It was just like this is like hilarious to me, and like
Yeah.
I do this too, you know? And I
Yeah,
slowly
yeah.
holy crap, like I didn't realize how many other people have had these same experiences, you know? And like I'm not surprised that they do. It's just like I just never thought of it. And so after that, we were like, okay, well, obviously it makes something that's like equally as relatable as this. So when we made the next video, the next video, next video.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, speaking to that like fluent in Chinese thing, I definitely do that all the time. And
Yeah.
it really goes to show that like this whole like undercurrent of Chinese American or even just Asian American growing up culture has like been around for ages. And a
Right.
lot of people are saying this year, like 2018, was the year for Asian American representation in media. What do you guys think about that?
Um, I don't think there was any instance of like the year. If you think back like to like all of the influences that were there growing up, like Ryan Higa, like Wong Fu and all those people, like they had made big strides in all those years. So it wasn't like the year that changed anything. It was like probably like the very beginning where like there was that inception of the idea that you know Asians can be in the media too. You know, this might have been like a year where we saw some like pretty good results. But I think leading up to now, like every year has been pretty like significant in the whole timeline of Asian Americans representation and Asian American representation.
I think I just want to add the fact that like being a CBC, it's growing up, especially without the internet, it was a really tricky time because you're Asian, but you're also in the West, right? So this identity is kind of mixed because you speak English when you go to school and you feel like you're westernized, but then you go home and you feel like you're in the East, right? Because you speak in your native tongue with parents and et cetera, et cetera. But I think that like Sheldon, like alluding to what Sheldon said before, is the fact that like greater representation in the media helps not only one person, but helps all of us, right? Because we're able to see ourselves as people more than just held back by our stereotypes. For example, Asians can't drive, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that with things like I think that 2018 or in these recent years, we've really formed a stronger identity, or we've really we just really formed a stronger identity to what a CBC is. For example, subtle Asian traits, a huge example, right? Where people post memes of their childhood growing up, other people be like, "Oh man, I went through this exact same thing as well," right?
Yeah, totally.
This kind of form a bond with each other, where we could walk down the street and we could go to a bubble tea shop, and we know that people in there might have grown up similar to how we are, right? So there's this comfort feeling to know that I belong in this now. You know what I mean? But I think you don't want to fall too deep into this I belong in this, but you more so want to expand. So in the future, what at least I hope to see is the bridge between CBC and FOBs kind of broken down.
Yeah.
That's a huge like turning point, I think, that hopefully we'll be able to see in the future.
Yeah, and I really like the terminology that you use there too, is bridging that gap between FOBs and CBCs and ABCs. Because that's really what it's about. It's finding things that we can relate on, finding things that we share in common, to kind of dispel this myth that we're too different to ever communicate with each other. Yeah.
Right.
And also another thing I wanted to ask, and this one goes along in that same vein of representation in media. I mean, like this year we saw Crazy Rich Asians, and just the emergence of a lot more Asians in popular media. I want to see things from the side of the representative, you guys. So like I can go watch Crazy Rich Asians and vote with my dollars and support, But for you guys are on the front line. You guys are the people representing us. And when you guys make videos, do you think a lot about that? Like, are there any certain pressures or challenges that being a representative for us yields that aren't really seen at first glance?
Yeah. You talk about that first. Sheldon is our how do we put it? Sheldon is our the editor where we is our filter. For example, we want to push it. It passes through Sheldon, and then it says if it's appropriate or not appropriate, right?
Yeah,
I see.
I mean, so, like, yes, there's definitely a lot of like pressures where you like there's certain topics where you think like for instance like even the idea of pushing the idea of like age, like even the idea of Asian American, right? There's really big issue with using the word Asian American because in reality we're Chinese American.
Mhm.
Our videos are all labeled Asian American, but we are all Chinese Americans. And what this does is it raises like the idea that Asian Americans are all Chinese people, or Asian Americans are all East Asians, right? There's also Southeast Asians. There's there's South Asians. There's all these different types of Asians that don't get enough representations, like Cambodians and all that stuff, because we're always like pushing the idea that Asian Americans are like Chinese Americans or Korean Americans. That's what you see in the media, and so that's something that like we're like really cognizant of. At the same time, like like right now it's like the Asian American movement, and so that's why we push the idea of Asian American because we want to be a part of this movement. Like we want the whole Asian American movement to feel like a family as opposed to like just Chinese American.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
like that's one of like the big pressures that we have in our head because in my head I know okay like I don't want to be pushing this idea that Chinese Americans represent all like Asian Americans. At the same time like I also want to be like a part of this big Asian American movement.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's one of the pressures that like we're constantly like okay like should we like switch to Chinese American or should we switch to
Yeah, and speaking on that topic, I think it is actually a really tough question, because we are getting a lot of representation in media, and a lot of times I think about that, and what I think about is I don't want that to detract from some kind of movement for, Southeast Asian Americans or, South Asian Americans, like I don't know enough about their culture for me to stand up on a podium and be like, "Oh, representation for them too," right? But
Right.
at the same time, I don't want my movement to impinge or on theirs. Where do you,
Yeah.
how do you guys find that balance? Like, where is the point at which we say, "Okay, let's just pause for a second and think about everyone else"?
Yeah, I mean, so that's definitely one of the big like struggles I think that like a lot of people have. Because I mean, essentially, like you could even call it like a big minority movement, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like in reality, like what this is really like, what we are really is we represent like Chinese Americans. Like that's what it is really. But like we frame it as like Asian American because we want to be part of this big movement, and so it's definitely not like a. I obviously don't have like the perfect answer for you for that.
Mm-hmm.
But it goes back to the fact that Asians were always regarded as Chinese. Even if you go back to school, right? It was this, the word Asian was always like the Chinese guy.
Which,
how many Asians are
which
there?
is a big issue.
Right.
That is a big issue.
Yeah.
But that is a really big issue. And yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I don't really have an answer for your wait. So wait. Sorry, what was your question again? I kind of forgot.
So the question is, at what point, do we have to say to ourselves, like, hey, let's pause for a second and think about everybody else? Where's that balance between pushing our own agenda and also caring about other people?
So like when you're saying like other people, you're referring to them like to the other like groups that aren't Chinese American, right?
That aren't Chinese American.
And then when you're saying pushing our agenda, like what, like are you saying the agenda of like more Asian representation in the media?
I mean, like when we say Asian, right? Like,
yeah,
I could say in the heart of my heart, right, that when I think about Asian American representation, right, Chinese American representation is the first thing that pops up because that's what I am, right?
Mhm.
I mean,
Right.
it's incredibly difficult, right, for me to go and just understand all the other cultures that are out there, right, and at the same time, be thinking about my own, right?
Yeah.
So where is that balance?
Really good question you asked, man.
something that we don't really think of, because at the same time when we talk about things and we talk about what should we name this video, the first thing that comes to our mind is Asian.
It's hard because we
Right?
are Chinese.
Yeah, we are
obviously.
Chinese.
So it's hard for us to see the other side. But see, like I think like it's really different because like even if I look back at like like earlier I alluded to that Billy comment where people in China were calling us not Chinese, right? They were like, oh, these guys aren't even Chinese, they're Asian American, right? Like even them, they're American, you know. And so like personally, like I ideally want to get to that point where, you know, like it is viewed as not like Asian American, and you don't think of Asian American as like Chinese people. You think of Asian American as like the whole entire like group of Asians. Because I would say like most Asian Americans who grew up like in the West, they have a similar struggle in terms of representation, in terms of identity, and all that stuff. And so like that's why like I think of it as kind of like one big like Asian American like
Melting pot,
you know.
Yeah.
It's like, to give you an example, even if you go, let's say it's not all being racist, but when you were raised up, you would say, oh, the white kid, the black kid, the brown kid, right? Even though that's Asian, and then you would say the Asian kid. No one would say the yellow kid. You know what I mean?
Right.
So because these terms that we've been like kind of these terms that we're so used to, it's just the way we call it. I think one of the hardest is the Southeast Asian representation. I think that they have it definitely as hard because they get pulled into being Chinese all the time.
Yeah,
being Asian, right? So I think that the community, with the brown community, the Indian community, with like that community has already a lot going for them already, right? Has a lot of backing, and they've been progressing a lot, like with Bollywood, and just if you go to a school, for example, there's countless amount of clubs, for example, that do traditional, like that is within their culture, right? I think the hardest is definitely the Southeast Asian people, because they always get pulled into being Asian, as in Chinese, right? And then and then that. And
I think you asked a really thought-provoking question that, frankly, I think we don't have a great answer for right now.
And I totally accept that. Sometimes there are questions that we'll never know the solution to until it actually just somehow happens. I mean, a lot of this is just, you know, waiting for a miracle sometimes.
Yeah.
Right?
Because I mean, ultimately, like let's say we were pushing the idea of Asian American representation in the media, right? Yeah. And you know, like frankly, it's been mostly Chinese. But I mean, there are a couple people that aren't of, you know, quote unquote Chinese descent that have been pulled on. Let's say like Henry Golding, for instance, in Crazy Rich Asians. He's not Chinese, you know what I mean? But he got pulled in. And so like and that's where you see the benefit of Asian American representation, because everybody is
right.
Like it's not we watch Crazy Rich Asians and we're like, okay, let's cheer for Constance Wu, let's cheer for everyone who is of Chinese descent, and then let's not cheer for us. We're cheering for everyone, right? We're like, oh my god, like it's great. Like adults are going like crazy, girls are going crazy for Henry Golding, even though he's not of Chinese descent. And so that's where you see the real benefit and the advantage of having this whole like Asian American family and pushing the idea that Asian American representation, even though for the large part, yes, it is Chinese. You know, Ken Jeong he's not Chinese either. He's still East Asian. But like, so it's a very hard question to answer, because there are obviously benefits to having it like collectively an Asian American family group. But obviously, like there is that underrepresentation and that feeling you get as, you know, someone who's not of East Asian descent, and like, oh shit, like, oh, they're like grouping me and all this stuff when, you know, I don't have it, you know. And
it's extra hard for us to speak on that topic because we're not, we don't know the perspective of them, right?
Yeah. So, it's not a question that we have the perfect answer to.
Yeah.
But I really thought-provoking question that I would love to think about and ponder out tonight when I sleep.
Or in the shower.
Yeah,
shower thoughts.
Yeah, shower thoughts. Shower thoughts those tend to be the best, honestly. You know.
Just to add, like I think that in one end it is beneficial, like Sheldon said, where we're pushing to the Asian movement, everybody's involved, right?
Yeah.
Distinguished Southeast Asian, and they're still Asian to me, right? But at the same time, I don't know if there's a backlash to that. I don't know if they feel kind of left out or misrepresented in that way. So it's harder for us to kind of answer that. But if you interview someone that's Southeast Asian, you ask them that question, like we definitely be interested to know the answer to that.
I know that,
and we definitely will. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I read some comment where it's like, oh, when you refer to like like Chinese people as Asian, and like basically have that that it's a big issue. Like a lot of people like definitely feel that way.
Yeah.
Especially people in like the Thai Laos, and like, those kind of smaller communities definitely feel that way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think awareness of that is really key, like a key first step. It's definitely not enough for us to just sit in our ivory tower and be like, oh, they need help, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like it definitely has to be awareness with some sort of action. And frankly, I'm still trying to find out for myself and just like where exactly that action lies. Yeah.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I kind of want to change the subject to something a little more lighthearted. So,
Yeah.
are you guys involved, or do you guys listen to any Chinese music?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I listen to like almost like 95% Chinese music
Oh,
now.
really? So who are like the artists that you guys are into?
All right, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm like very, very slip. So we recently went to a Jam Shao concert, and then my parents started getting into it, so that's all I hear around the house now. Yeah, I listen to him a little bit. Well, J Chow classics.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Song by Yoga Lin.
Wait, sorry, say that again.
Yoga Lin.
Oh, okay. I haven't heard
Song
of
by
it.
Yoga Lin.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's just one song. It appeared in some Douyin video that we reacted to, and um, tough. I think I'm pretty sure there's one more artist, but I just can't name it on the top of my head.
I see. Have you guys ever
You
heard
like-
88 Rising?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, brothers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was actually just gonna say that because I think one of the types of music that we don't really see uh like just like in Chinese is like rap or like I guess like
Right.
more hardcore rap. But Higher Brothers really stepped into that niche. And
Yeah.
another thing was like with Joji and like doing like, in the feels kind of music. I thought that 88 Rising was like one of the biggest things to happen to bridging this gap in media
True.
between Western and Eastern cultures. And I just really appreciate that. Yeah.
I think we're more when you refer to Chinese songs or like Asian music, we refer to like a full Chinese, like no English at all.
Yeah. Okay,
But
I see
yeah,
what you're talking about, yeah.
that's a very they hold a very special place in the industry, like right in the middle where they use English and Chinese together. So I think we listen to them, we just don't listen to them as much as we do, for example, like Chinese.
Yeah.
Okay.
I listen to High Brothers. I listen to. We actually went to 88 Eyes in the summer. Actually,
Yeah,
really
we
good.
did. Went to the concert.
Oh, nice.
Toronto. That was pretty good. Yeah, like for me, like, I really like Jay Chow. I like Mayday. I like Yoga Lin. I like Escape Plan, which is like Tao Pao Jihua. I like Supper Moment, which is like a Hong Kong band. Who else do I like? Eason Chan.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. It's like
Chinese classics.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the classics is all you really need because that way, like you talk to your parents about it, and it's like, oh wow, you guys are really connecting with that.
I know like way more Chinese songs than my parents at this point, to be honest.
Really?
Which is
Wow. Okay.
okay, but
weird flex, but okay.
Yeah, it's a weird flex, but it's okay.
All right, so I want to wrap up our podcast today with one last final fun topic. So as you guys know, the holiday season has just passed. I mean, maybe for some people it's still high season. So I won't judge you if you don't take down your Christmas trees until like April or something. But I know a lot of Asian households tend to be really different from the classic Western take on like I don't know, like Christmas or Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. So I wanted to know what kind of fun things or traditions do you guys have at home that you do with your families?
I could go first. We set up the tree and we decorate the house every year. That has been a tradition ever since I came to Canada, and that's something I'm very grateful for my parents because they really try to immerse themselves in the Western culture, right? So, for example, Christmas is every year I've been getting a gift, and now I'm like 23 and I'm still getting gifts at 23.
Wow.
Gift exchange and putting something under the tree and opening a gift on Christmas has been something in
Wow.
my family for
That's cute.
as long as I've come here. And honestly, it's something amazing. And for example, Halloween too. My dad always gives out candy. Even like this year there was 0 people that came to my door.
Oh, that's
Right?
so sad.
He always has like a light on, some sort of bowl of candy, and then waiting outside to like give candy. Right?
Right now, I'm just like imagining this picture of like, just like your dad is just standing outside
Yeah.
holding like a bowl, waiting to see us, and just like
Yeah,
nobody
he's sitting,
comes.
he's sitting in front of the door, like waiting, and the only ring he gets is me when I come home. And then right. So yeah, we've been, at least my family's been keeping up with traditions for Christmas and for New Year's, and that's something that I really do enjoy.
That's cool. Yeah. How about you, Sheldon?
My family, like, so our big thing is we have like an annual, like, basically like I have a lot of family in Canada. It's like basically my mom's entire side moved to Canada, and she has like 7 siblings.
Wow.
They all have kids and everything. So like we have a big family gathering every year with my grandparents too. And then we just get there, we like do some big dinner, and then like we just like exchange gifts and stuff. So that's really fun to have.
Secret Santa.
Oh yeah, and this year we had Secret Santa with my cousins too, so that was really fun.
Oh, that's really nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we used to do lights, but then the problem was like my parents are really lazy, so like the lights go up once and then they never get taken down. So like we used to have in the summer, like just because they never get taken down. My parents are really lazy.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So now we don't even put it up anymore because like we know once they're up, they're never coming down. So but yeah, no, like I think like my parents are definitely like they're like okay festive. I what happened when I was younger all the time was like we go to the mall on Boxing Day, which is like the day after Christmas. It's like the day when everything goes on sale in Canada, and be like, okay, just like oh, what do you want? I'll be like, oh, I'll have this. Okay, that's a Christmas present. So, like it's like it won't be like, oh, what do you want? Like
That's the Asian gift. You know?
or like
Yeah.
Christmas. I'm like, oh, I want a Wii, right? Like, okay, that's a Christmas present.
No elements of surprise.
Yeah, and like there's no like wrapping up anything. It's just like, all right, that's your Christmas present.
Yeah,
That's like my biggest.
I totally relate to that. Yeah. I mean, like
Yeah.
this year, I literally texted my dad like 2 weeks before break started, and I was like, "Hey, Dad, can I get a kalimba?" And a kalimba is like it's like a hand piano that you like flick metal keys. And I was like, "Yeah, can you get a kalimba for Christmas?" And he was like, "Yeah, just find it on Amazon. Send me a link, and I'll get it."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like-
Send me a link,
send me a
right?
link. I'll buy it.
Yeah.
It's like no effort, but like sure we'll celebrate the tradition.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean,
I see the efforts there.
Yeah.
And something that I guess we all appreciate.
Yeah, and I think that is like a very special way for themselves to show that they're participating in just like a different way.
Yeah,
of
like
course.
like I think like the I hate to like be like the like I think in our videos like we want to promote the fact that like whatever like your parents did growing up or whatever it was like it's not something to be ashamed of, but rather something to be like celebrate and be proud of. Even if it's different, even if it's not the same as what everyone else around you is doing, it's like it's cool in its own way. And then when you see everyone else like laughing and reacting to it, you can be like, oh, like haha, like kind of like warm nostalgic memories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the things we strive for is to make funny videos because of the fact that we could all look back at these experiences. For example, bring like Chinese food to your lunchroom and everyone's like, oh, what's that smell, right? And be able to those things, right? To alleviate kind of the stigma associated with this kind of embarrassment and just turn it into a laughing thing because we all
Yeah.
went through it.
Definitely. I mean, like talking about that, I remember there was this one time like I brought seaweed as like a snack into my classroom, and people were like staring at me like, dude, like what are you doing? And I remember there was this one kid who like stood up for me. He was like, have you like never eaten sushi before? Like it's so uncultured. And I was like, yo, that's the homie.
Yeah,
And then like fast forward 2019, everyone's like, oh my god, like Asian food's so good.
yeah.
I know, like what happened? Where did that jump happen?
Fast forward 2019, everyone's like, oh my god, have you tried the new hand-pulled noodles? They're so
True.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, like even in Pittsburgh, like out of all places, Pittsburgh, there's like a big, like it's starting to happen. And
Yeah.
that's just really cool to me. Yeah.
Same. I remember dumplings, man. Dumplings was huge. Everyone would be like, yo, what's that smell, right? And then I like tuck it back in my bag.
Oh yeah.
I'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. You know what I mean?
I remember actually another interesting food in the classroom story. I remember for like public speaking class, we had to do like an instructional thing, and I
Yeah.
taught everyone how to make yuan xiao, which is
Oh,
like
Yanxiao.
yeah. And for people who don't know what that is, it's like glutinous rice balls, and inside there's this like sweet black
Sesame.
sesame or
Yeah.
like peanut
Oh,
filling,
okay.
and they're really good. I really like those. And I remember the whole class was just like, at the end of my speech was like, I'm never gonna use this. Like, why do I even want to know? But for me, it was like a moment where I had time to, just like share what to me was like a yearly tradition, and
Yeah.
Mhm.
I feel like that mattered a lot more than whatever grade I got on that.
Yeah. 100%.
Very
Yeah,
true.
yeah. Do you guys have any more like final funny stories about the holidays?
About the holidays. I mean, my parents like every day, everyone Halloween, my parents hide.
Every Halloween.
Like, my parents are like hiders. Like, I remember one time I came home, and then like I came home to like a black empty house, and I was like, oh, I thought like no one was home. Then like, wait, they're like, do not turn on the lights. Do not turn on the lights. I heard it. I see them in the room, like camped in the room, like watching TV. They're like, do not turn on the lights under any circumstance. So yeah, that's my parents.
Yeah, that's
I,
funny.
I started giving my parents gifts, but then I get a lot of backlash because they're like, "Why are you spending so much money on this gift
Yeah.
if you're not even much? You know, you got all this stuff to do." So it ends up turning into a lecture. I took the time to get you a gift, wrap it, thoughtful.
But in reality, like that's like their way of like kind of like I mean I don't know if it is, but like,
Right,
oh my
right,
god,
yeah.
like you got me this gift and like even though you make no much money, even though like you're broke, no more money, like
Yeah.
you still got money on the gift for me. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Or or it's like why so freaking stupid?
Yeah. I think it's a ladder. It's not definitely not
Or
the
like,
form.
But
Yeah.
in the end, that's their way of showing, that they
Yeah.
care about us, right? They're caring that like, we
You're
develop
not
good money habits,
Yeah.
Because I got my mom an Apple Watch and then my dad an iPad this Christmas, and then as they were opening it, they were like, "Dude, it was so expensive." Oh, and they're opening it, right? They're like, "Wow, this is so expensive. Why are you
Yeah.
doing this?" Right? So, budget for Christmas gifts to be $30 next year.
Mm.
So,
Really?
yeah.
Jokes.
Yeah. Financial 101.
$30 like useless. You can't really get anything useful with $30.
I know, but definitely is they say that though. You know what I mean? They say that,
Yeah,
but
fuck
you
the
know,
budget.
yeah, fuck the budget. But,
All right. Well, I think that's all the time that we have for today. Thank you
Sure.
so much, Sheldon and Mike, for joining us tonight.
No
It was a
problem.
pleasure.
It was a
Thank you.
pleasure. It was a pleasure to talk to you again. You know
Yeah.
what, Edward?
Thank
you.
Thank you. Yeah.
And like honestly, like, thank you for that like really insightful question on like bridging between that whole Asian thing. Like I think that's a really like question that like you like really challenged me there because I had never thought about that before, to be
Mhm.
honest. I mean, I never thought like what's the balance. So it's like something I'm gonna go home and think about like after this podcast and everything.
Great. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm glad that our conversation has caused that, because that's really the goal of everything, is awareness first and then action later. Yeah. But
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining me once again, and a big shout out to all of our listeners for tuning in. We really do appreciate you, and a big thanks to WPTS for providing their studio and for airing us. The Chinese American Students Association at Pitt has a couple of big events coming up that we'd like to invite you to. Spring semester is about to start, and that always means a new, fresh batch of nice events. As always, keep an eye out on Facebook and Instagram for updates on the Lunar New Year and other events at Pitt CASA. That's PITTCASA for updates. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's the same. And I highly recommend subscribing to Canto. They make a lot of really great videos. Follow them on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. It's really great. So make sure you click on that notification bell if you'd like to know when a new podcast
And subscribe.
Smash that like button. Hit subscribe. Yeah, so
Thank you, Edward, again.
that's all for tonight. Thank you guys once again so much for joining me. Have a great night, guys.